Call to order the President and Board of Trustees. Roll call, please.
Trustee Rassich. Trustee Wachowski.
Here.
Trustee Benucci.
Here.
Trustee Lamb.
Here.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Here.
Trustee Peck.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here, if we could rise for the pledge.
Presidential comments.
I have none this evening.
Trustees' comments. There are no trustee comments. This would be the time for public comments, not to exceed 3 to 5 minutes. There are no public comments, and we'll proceed with the business meeting. We're seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Trustee Wachowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda to include minutes of the board meeting held on June 15th, bills and bills payables for reports for July 6th, and resolution 1713 adopting the Lockport Street bypass feasibility study option 1A.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve items A through C under the consent agenda. Trustee Wachowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Frederick Property, 13318 South Rivercrest Drive. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3218, authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement for property commonly known as 13318 South Rivercrest Drive.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee Wachowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3219, annexing the property commonly known as 13318 South Rivercrest Drive.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee Wachowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Trolley Barn. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a site plan review for the Trolley Barn located at 24216 West Lockport Street.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
I had a question, Michael. I know that when it went through the planning commission, there was a lot of discussion regarding the north elevation and the right-of-way. I think at one point it came back that IDOT was not willing to release any of the right-of-way. So
That's
has there
correct.
been any resolution, or is that just going to be an encroachment into the right-of-way, or
That
what?
will be, answer your question directly, that will be an encroachment into the right-of-way. As IDOT has not identified any, basically, plans to widen Main Street. In fact, as you know, our long-term plan is with the bypass. But based, reflecting IDOT's determination, the applicant has withdrawn a portion of the facade grant. At this point, the only modifications or improvements they're seeking on the northern elevation is simply to rehab the existing brick and to replace existing windows. They are not proposing to add any new additions, new entrances, new signage, new handicap ramps, based on the fact that all those improvements would be additional encroachments on the IDOT right away. And based on that fact, they have withdrawn or they're not requesting a facade grant for those improvements. So really, nothing will change with respect to the existing encroachment, with the exception of one substantial improvement. As you know, the applicant is in the process of demolishing the western Raylock addition. So a large portion of this encroachment that you see right here is actually being removed as we speak as part of the demolition of the western Raylock addition.
Does that present any safety hazard for any patrons that may be in any future business walking around the backside? And how would we address that?
Yeah, no, exactly. There was a very healthy, extensive discussion at the Planning Commission about that. There was concerns about if there was a full access point there, full entrance there. There were some concerns about the traffic on Main Street. I think the general consensus was that access, that main access, first it's moot because the applicant's not proposing that because of the encroachment. But if, once the issue's resolved, if there is a future bypass from Main Street, then it probably makes sense to have access there once that's a local village street. But right now, perhaps it doesn't make sense at this point.
So the north elevation has been adjusted, and
Correct.
staff has reviewed that and is comfortable?
That's correct, yes.
And then, as such, you mentioned that the facade grant request has been modified to reflect that as well?
That's correct. The applicant's not seeking any subsidies for the additional access point, or additional entrance, signage, handicap ramps, only for the restoration of the brick and the replacement of the windows.
Is it your thought or your hope that at some point in the future that might be opened? In other words, additional access to the building on that north elevation?
Our long-term plan is to have Main Street there at one point in the future, basically have village jurisdiction. There'll be a village street, and based on that fact, we think there's an opportunity to have a commercial frontage on Main Street once the whole nature of that street changes as it relates to traffic volume. Once it's a village street, then it makes much more sense as being consistent with the downtown street to have a commercial entrance on that street. But at this point, the applicant has kind of stepped back from that proposal as it relates to the Main Street,
Based upon IDOT's reaction?
based on IDOT's determination.
Thank you.
One thing that was brought up at our last session was the walkway to the east side of the building to access Lockport Street. There was some talk then that there was an easement. They thought they had an easement. Has that issue been resolved one way or another?
Again, it's the applicant's legal conclusion that they do have basically that they have the legal right-of-way or opportunity so to have access there. They've made that quite clear. They provided staff with a memo, a legal conclusion. Also, they are also potentially working with the other adjacent property owner potentially to also make sure that, resolve any issues with them. So I think we're very confident that that issue generally has been resolved, and the applicant has addressed that fully.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify for the record, the applicants received all of the board's policies on facade grants and everything else and the regulations and how everything works.
Yes, they have. The applicant's actually here with their architects, so if the board has any technical questions as it relates to any of the proposed improvements, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer that or provide any update to the village board.
Just one comment on that. I don't need to have them talk about it, but the packet they put together is outstanding. Showed, exactly what they wanted to do, very clearly showed the kind of things that need to be improved, the windows, and it's really a well-done package to present to the village and to us. So thank them for that, or since they're back there, I'll thank them directly.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not. The motion was made and seconded to approve a site plan review for the trolley barn located at 24216 West Lockport Street. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the trolley barn located at 24216 West Lockport Street.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a facade grant agreement for the trolley barn not to exceed the sum of $237,189.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
I'm sorry, I just had a question. It's probably more for staff. So I'm fairly new to the facade grant program, so is there any type of limitation, in other words, a maximum that an applicant can apply for?
Technically, there is. To answer your question, yes. Technically, there has historically been a $150,000 grant, but there has been exceptions based on the variation or determination by the village board. If the village board believes the project is appropriate, significant enough, they have the right, the opportunity to basically approve a facade grant above that limitation. The board has approved facade grants over that limitation twice. Specifically, they have approved a facade grant for the Masonic Lodge, which exceeded $200,000. They also approved a facade grant for the Clock Tower or Opera House, over $200,000, based on their determination that those were basically anchor buildings or significant buildings, and therefore they did support varying from our policy.
Guessing because that's the motion right now that staff supports, and the
Yes, we do.
prior discussion has been to go above the 150
Yes,
on
we think this project has a significance of really being a commercial anchor for the western edge of our downtown, consistent with the Clock Tower and consistent with Masonic building, and therefore we're in support of the variation from the village's facade limitation.
There's obviously enough money in the program to support that match or that grant.
There is. I mean, perhaps I'll let Ms. Pleckham outline that, but I believe there's enough money in the TIF funds to subsidize this facade grant.
Correct. The TIF funds has just about $1 million in fund balance. We also have budgeted in the next fiscal year $250,000 for facade improvements, which is an estimate based on what staff was aware of at the time the budget was being produced. So depending on what happens with our facade, we do have fund balance to be able to expend higher than the $250 for facade programs. There's ample balance within the fund to do so, and if we should choose to do that, we can revise the budget later in the fiscal year to reflect that exact expense.
Point of clarification, Tracy, can you refresh the board on the annual contribution approximately that goes into the TIF fund?
Correct. We estimate for fiscal 16, which is the current fiscal year, that we'll receive about $750,000 in TIF funds. And again, we have in the past had not spent everything that's been received, so we've had fund balance or reserves available. And the TIF fund is limited through 2021 as far as how long the TIF is extended until.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to approve a facade grant agreement for the trolley barn not to exceed the sum of $237,189. Trustee Wajowski? Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Morales Building, 24108 West Lockport Street. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 24108 West Lockport Street.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
There was rather extensive discussion at the Historic Commission, and I think they came out with a very nice resolution. A lot of the building needs to be done on three sides, but they're making a real effort to save the front, the more historic portion. So I think very appropriate what finally emerged from those discussions.
Are there any other comments or questions? If not, the motion was made and seconded to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 24108 West Lockport Street. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
She left.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a facade grant agreement for the Morales Building at 24108 West Lockport Street, not to exceed $68,278.88.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's
been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
I love the precision when you get to 88 cents on $68,000, but, you know,
Yeah.
that's what the estimates come in at, so.
I have a question, I guess maybe more for staff, and I think Mr. Lamb made a comment earlier about the trolley barn and all the detail that we received regarding that facade. I don't know that there was anything included in the packet that showed exactly what the improvements are gonna be. Maybe if you can talk to that.
Yeah, the applicant's actually here this evening to answer any direct questions, but to answer your question directly, you do have an elevation, basically, of the actual front elevation. This is to propose modifications facing Lockport Street as it relates to the restoration of the southern elevation facing Lockport Street. There'll be a new door, kind of an accordion door, basically will be introduced to this elevation, which will be a major change. Again, supported by the HPC, but more importantly, there will be a restoration of the brick on this elevation, along with the cornice, an existing steel frame or a metal frame of the building itself, which is original to the building itself. As it relates, more importantly, to the other three elevations, the applicant is simply proposing to construct or restore all three elevations with a Chicago common brick. Unfortunately, I don't think they actually brought the actual specification, but it's just a typical Chicago brick that they're proposing to use as it relates to the other three elevations. So they're go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, when you say add, so is it actually building another brick wall next to the existing brick wall?
It's actually removing the existing brick wall and restoring, actually constructing three new brick walls with common Chicago brick.
And in the front, when you say restore, would that be the same, or would that be different type?
No, they're actually restoring. They're restoring the
bad.
existing brick that's actually on the front elevation.
What does that entail?
Perhaps I'll let the applicant actually get into the details. I think the applicant's actually here this evening to, yeah, it's right there.
And could you just give your name, please?
Jason Morales?
I'm sorry, I was just asking they were indicating that you were gonna restore the front facade of the brick. What exactly does it mean to restore the
Approximately
brick?
40 bricks that have cracked due to stress fractures, and we're looking to replace those and tuck point as required. But I would say maybe 85, 90% of the bricks will remain as is,
Thank you.
on that facade, that is.
Mr. Garrigan, you included in the staff report that there are some items that are
correct.
included in the request that typically aren't covered by our facade grant program that total
Yes.
$10,528.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for mentioning that. For the record, the applicant is seeking a approximately $68,000 facade grant. Staff is in support of approximately $57,000. The basis for the variation is the applicant has identified some line items that traditionally we have not included in the facade grant. Those include, my staff report, I can go through those specifically which ones, but they range from security fencing to a construction toilet, variations of things like that typically the facade grant has not subsidized. Therefore, staff is in support, a slight modification of $57,000 versus the $68,000 that's requested.
So the staff doesn't support the current proposal for $68,000?
That's
Now, we need to change the motion to
That's correct.
57,000,
correct, because I'm willing to,
750.
not the 68.
That's
I would agree
correct.
with staff. I wouldn't want to subsidize. You said a portable toilet with taxpayer dollars. I have a problem with that.
There is a commission, basically contractors' fees. There's a security fence. I've outlined specifically in my staff report those items. Basically, they're on the first page, approximately $7,000, which include the project manager cost, project superintendent cost, blue lines printing, barricades cost, temporary toilets, dumpsters. Typically, we don't cover those.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion, a second on the table. Can you please let us know who put the motion out if we did?
I did.
I
I
asked-
just altered the motion, needs to be seconded, or at least the second needs to be removed, and then we make a new motion. 750.
So the 68,000's been stricken?
Not yet.
Need to have the motion be precise to the 750. I'll be happy to make that motion again, but do we have to take off the other motion first?
Another,
Yes, you have to remove the other motion.
I withdraw it and need to withdraw the second then.
gonna ask another question of staff.
Fine.
So in other words, with the trolley barn, normally the policy was 150 and we went above and beyond that. I know you said typically we do not cover these costs, but have we ever in the past covered these costs for another project?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You know, and answer to your question, we did several years ago adjust and took money away from the request of one of the other businesses along there because it was more of a remodeling versus the actual facade. So that would keep with that pattern that we do not support these kinds of expenses.
Right, I just wanted to make sure we're being consistent. That's
Mm-hmm. That we did adjust one several years ago, the
As a
dentist
project-
office. That's right.
The project goes along, does the staff monitor to make sure that things are being?
Correct. Yeah, we review everything as they come in. As you know, this is a reimbursement, so the applicants are reimbursed. They actually have to expend the money. The village basically reimburses them once they receive all the various releases from subcontractors. We actually review the work, make sure it was done consistent with what was originally represented, and that we received all the lien waivers.
Before we
Mike-
make the I'm sorry.
All right, Michael, have you spoken with the applicant? I mean, is he still willing to go forward with the project at these numbers? I mean, is it necessary for this motion, or?
Applicant's actually here this evening. He's not raised any objections as it relates to slight modification of this project.
And I'd like to withdraw my second, so a new motion can be entertained then for the decreased amount that trustee Lamb was gonna propose.
A new motion? Move that we approve facade grant to the amount of $57,750 for the property at 24108 West Lockport Street.
That motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, then I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke,
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Administrators report,
None tonight?
Management Services report,
No report.
Engineers report,
No report?
Planning Department report,
No report.
Building Department report,
No report.
Public Works report.
Yes, I just have a couple of brief items here this evening. First of all is, as part of our regular maintenance program, we hire out for a contract out for striping related to our resurfacing work out there and then touching up the school crossing areas and areas throughout the community to provide the proper pavement striping. This year, through our own engineering department, we did release a bid and collect bids for a multi-year contract. This is actually for this year and for next year. And we're pleased to report that the low bidder was well below the engineer's estimate, Market Corporation, and we did receive 2 bids. And we've had previous years where we've only received 1 bid for this type of work and the next type of work too as well. But we're pleased with the bids and we recommend award to the low bidder.
Yeah, the second bid was really exciting.
Yeah,
More
there
than
was
double.
quite a spread between the two.
Quite a spread, yeah.
May have been an error on the second bidder, but we're glad that we did get 2 bids instead of just 1.
They've been very good to us in the past, so that's done a good job.
And we're kind of off topic, but a little bit on this. The Plainfield-Naperville Road intersection near Nabby's there at Route 59 where it's kind of worn. Is there an opportunity to look into that and possibly get that added to one of these programs? Because it desperately needs something drawn on the sidewalk. I mean, I'm sorry, on the pavement that says this is the left turning and this is the right turning to help alleviate the traffic that backs up there.
We've been in communications with the state to work on that intersection, and we'll continue to work on it, and we'll bring the board an update.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments or questions? Yes.
I move that we accept the market bid for $109,925.07.
Second.
That's the engineers, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 94,000.
The wrong bid. Bid is 94,400, whatever.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to award the 2015-2016 pavement marking program to Market Corporation, the low bidder, in the amount of $94,927.40. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
The second item that I have is the pavement crack sealing program. We've actually participated in this program for many years. I think approximately over 20 years. It's been effective as in extending the life of the pavement in many areas. This is also a multi-year project. This is a 2-year contract, and we're pleased to report that we did receive 2 different bids. SKC has completed a majority of the work in the past for the village, and that their price was very comparable to previous years. I know it's hard to see on the bottom of this slide, but their price is actually, it's okay, Michael. Their price is, it's very difficult to see, I apologize. Their price is very comparable to what was provided in the past, and is actually lower than the previous several years. So very competitive price, and we're very pleased with it, and staff recommends approval.
Are there any comments or questions? I would be seeking a motion to authorize the village president to award the 2015-2016 pavement crack filling program to SKC Corporation, Inc., the low bidder, in the amount of $115,411.71.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wojciechowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke,
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Next item that I have is related to a piece of equipment. If the board will recall, back as part of the budget process, we did talk about the replacement of equipment both within the, mainly within the police department and within Public Works too as well. We recently received a new, larger truck that we've been utilizing this summer. We also have another large truck that's on order. It's a replacement and actually can be used to supplement snow removal services this winter. This is a replacement slash truck that can use to be supplement winter snow removal as well. The picture of this truck here is currently this is currently the replacement of a 1999 Ford F-350 one-ton dump truck, and these trucks do take care of quite a bit of work out within subdivisions, cul-de-sacs, things of that nature. But Ford does offer an F-550, which is actually more powerful, has more horsepower, and is a much stronger truck than the 350. And for the little additional cost, it really makes sense to invest into the extra horsepower, little larger body too as well, heavier suspension, and a better snow plow package too as well. We have a state bid for this from the state bid provider, Bob Writing. We did inquire at Rod Baker Ford if they'd be able to match this price. They were able to come within $30 of the state purchase price. So staff is recommending approval from Rod Baker Ford. Although it is $30 more, we believe it's valuable to keep the business in-house, and that I have to credit the Bakers for coming so close to the state purchase price, because it's difficult for a lot of vendors to do that. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but this will add to our fleet and help assist us in winter snow removal and as far as summer work too as well.
You know, Alan, you mentioned the snow removal, which is hard to think about right now in July, of course. But for the cul-de-sacs, obviously that was a hot topic in the last snowstorm. So by purchasing this and some other equipment that you brought this up along the way, is this, is there a plan forming that it's going to change a little bit how we did business in the past with the snow removal, especially in the cul-de-sacs?
Yes, there has been, and there are multiple different areas. We'll talk about that. I anticipate in about 2 months. As far as snow removal contracts with our contractors, that'll change completely from what we've done in the past. Salt purchase, there's additional salt that will be purchased for the coming year. New equipment purchases, which you've seen here, and we have 2 other units that are coming in shortly. And then also the intergovernmental agreements too as well, to tie that in, as to help the community deal with severe winter events.
Is
Great,
the
thank you.
maneuverability of the 550 the same as the 350 as far as if we're trying to get into cul-de-sacs in tight areas?
The maneuverability is about the same, but the power is significantly stronger in the 550 as opposed to the 350.
Also something to point out, the F-150, 250, and 350 this year are being built on an all-new aluminum system, which Ford is very excited about, but we would much rather stay with the steel frame, at least until we know for sure that this vehicle is going to perform accordingly. And so for snow plowing operations, we'd much rather have a all steel frame. You know, for other operations, we can go to the aluminum and the like, but for this particular one, we're much better served.
This would be used extensively for snow plowing as well.
That's correct.
So
As trucks go, it's kind of a mid-sized truck. Didn't we spend more than $100,000 for some bigger, more powerful snow removal trucks?
Yeah, the next step higher from this is actually when we get into the 2.5-ton truck range. Those start in the price range of about $150,000, and the board did approve Peterbilt it's a mid-size, it's a step below a semi-truck, but it's about the most powerful snow plowing truck that you can buy out there, and that's what we purchased. And it's going to be in here before winter, along with this vehicle too as well.
Good.
will this F-350 to 1999 be taken out of service, or will it still be used?
We'll keep it in service this winter season, reevaluate the budget. I think there's a lot of things that we need to figure out as far as what's going on in Springfield. I'd love to have a more extensive capital replacement program, but I think that's a good discussion for the budget in the fall. But we'll keep it in. As long as it's running, the engine and the transmission works. You know, we talk about these older vehicles, they're one engine or one transmission away from being hauled away. And as long as the engine and the transmission are working, and it passes a safety lane as far as the truck inspection is concerned, we'll keep it on the road.
Sneaking suspicion Pima could inherit it after we're done with it.
There's always that possibility. And they can plow snow as well. What?
It's scary.
Are there any other comments or questions?
I have one comment. I'll support this. But as far as from a policy consistency, their last business meeting, this board, I was the one dissenting vote. This board approved approximately $170,000 printer maintenance contract off of a contract. Okay, I believe it was a federal contract. And I had stressed to the board that maybe we should still get quotes and see if we can get a better price. And that fell on deaf ears, and the board went ahead and did approve moving forward with approximately $180,000 contract without obtaining quotes. Now tonight, what we're doing is we're allowing another vendor to essentially provide a quote, which is better than the state contract price, which I'm fine with. I support Rod Baker Ford. I support the F550. I do believe it even does have a slightly better steering radius than the 350s. From the 350 up, it actually does handle a little bit better backing in and out of spaces, because I've owned a 450. But from a policy standpoint, I think in the future we should have a discussion then, if we're going to practice allowing others to bid on a project that is on a state contract, letting them come under it and award it. How are we going to do it? Are we going to say we're only going to do it for trucks? Are we going to allow this to happen then when the printer maintenance contract comes back up down the line? I'd like to see a discussion, because I see an inconsistency, and I think whether or not we were going to use other vendor, which isn't on this agenda, so I'm not going to go on for 30 seconds about it. I think we could have saved some money had we actually got quotes, even if we went with them. But I do support your item, Alan, and I appreciate you doing all the legwork. Thank you.
I would agree with the consistency. I think that is an important aspect of government, that you're consistent so the taxpayers know where their dollars are going. And this is a state bid here, and I think that it's a good bid, and $30 is not a lot. It's the price of getting gas from one place to the other with that size truck.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, would be seeking a motion to waive the bidding and authorize the purchase of a 2016 Ford F-550 heavy-duty dump truck with snow equipment from Rod Baker Ford for the total cost of $66,395.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Also, we go right from snow to trees. I'm pleased to report the forestry department, there's a huge challenge out there, as the board is well aware. We have 1,800 ash trees that need to be removed this season. I'm pleased to report that the street department has already removed over 400 trees, and they did this work very efficiently. We have 2 different chippers. We actually own a chipper, but we actually own 3 trucks that can receive chips from the chipper itself. So with the extra manpower that we have with the seasonal assistants, the seasonal employees, we have an additional 12 summer college employees here that can help out. We did go ahead and rent a chipper to try it, and for a month's rental, it's within what staff can approve, the $4,900. Staff has been very happy with the performance of this chipper. We believe that the rental of the additional month to 2 months will allow us to get even more work done and not only meet the 1,000, but even exceed the 1,000 and get us closer to that 1,800 where we need to be. The chipper's been an outstanding piece of equipment, and the guys have been very, very pleased with it. To rent the chipper for an additional month, it does exceed what staff can approve, so it does require board approval. If the board doesn't approve it tonight, we'll just have to give the chipper back at the end of, at the middle of this month. But on the positive side, if the board at some point is interested in purchasing the chipper, the amount that's paid in rental costs can be applied to the purchase, and it may be something that we want to talk about in the future. The new chipper, this new chipper is approximately $73,000, just to give you the heads up as to how much the value of the chipper is, and it is brand new. You can see on the rental agreement it says it has 1.7 hours on it. The company's been very good. They come out and service it every week, and we use it. We put quite a few hours on it, and we'll put many more on it too as well. So we'd be seeking your approval related to the continuing of renting the chipper for 1 additional month, a total of 2 months.
I move that we authorize the rental of the Moorbeck brush chipper for 2 months for the amount not to exceed the sum of $9,800.
Question, that, 73,000 is the total purchase price. That's 15 months worth of rentals roughly. We can consider it, but in the rental, you say they service it, if it went kaput for whatever reason, they would give us another one at no additional charge? That's an important factor because these things take a huge beating chopping up big trees. I'm amazed they last as long as they do, so anyway.
Removal ahead of schedule then?
Yeah, we are currently ahead of schedule.
This will help push that program faster.
Exactly. And we'll be back in approximately a month and a half to 2 months to give an update to the board as to where we're at with the removals and then also with the replacement program for the fall, the new trees that are coming in too as well.
Sorry, Alan, just to confirm, so we have 2 that we own and we're renting the third one, correct?
We have 1 that we own and we're renting a second.
Okay, but you have the manpower available to operate that second rental
And
for the
it's-
next month or whatever we're renting it for?
Yeah, in the summer with the extra 12 part-time employees that we have, it does really increase the amount of work that we can get completed in it. And it's a very efficient way to take care of it too as well.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to authorize the rental of 1 chipper for 2 months for the total amount not to exceed $9,800. Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck? Thank you, that motion carries.
Thing I just wanted to mention very briefly, as the board and mayor are aware, and I want to thank them for sending 2 forestry crews to Coal City last week. It was very well received. The call was specifically for public works entities, and I don't want to read any stories about Plainfield and Coal City. I think there have been enough correlations that have been made. And on top of that, it was over 12 other communities that came together last week to help the city out, and it was very, very well received. I wanted to recognize some of our employees, TJ Countryman, Scott McElrath, John Hannon, Brian Farnstrom, and then we also sent 2 of our part-time employees, because they're on the forestry crew, Kevin Rivas and Mike Salinas too as well. Just did an outstanding job last week, and it was very, very well received. And again, it was a group effort. It was kind of quiet because it was specifically called out for public works, for heavy equipment, and people that could operate the machinery. And the guys just did a great job down there, and it was a great help. So I want to thank the board and the mayor for being open and very supportive to that, and then thank the guys too as well for their hard work down there. That's all I have.
Police chief's report?
I have no report, thank you.
Attorney's report?
No report this evening, thank you.
Reminders?
Stepping away from reminders just a little bit, I want to recognize that State Senator Sue Resin was able to join us, and welcome to our meeting. Also, a reminder would be July 7th, it's a planning commission. July 8th, coffee with the mayor. July 10th is movie in the park. July 13th is next committee of the whole, and July 20th will be our next regular board meeting.
We're seeking a motion to adjourn to executive session as permitted under the Open Meetings Act under Section 2C6 to discuss the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body, not to reconvene.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski. Trustee Panucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.